thank you very much. Let's discuss more now with Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen of Nevada. She's a member of the Armed Services and Homeland Security Committees. Senator, good to see you this morning. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Pete Hegseth is making the rounds, mainly meeting with Republican senators at this point. What is your sense of how that process is playing out? Your colleague, Senator Joni Ernst, is now signaling she won't oppose his nomination, although she hasn't, I guess, made a definitive statement altogether about it, but she's saying she's had encouraging conversations with him. What are you hearing from your Republican colleagues? Are they saying quietly what they're not saying out loud? What's your sense of it?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on this morning. And they really aren't signaling too much to us, and I wouldn't want to presume what's in any of their mind. But what I surely do hope is that they expect the same thing that we've always expected: candidates that have a broad depth of experience. It is really important, particularly when you think about the Department of Defense. We are the most powerful military in the world. Our respect of our military, how we take care of our men and women and their families who are deployed, how we take care of those millions of employees and manage those billions of dollars of economic impact, not just to our country but around the world, not to mention national security and safety. It requires somebody who is reasonable and a broad depth of experience, a good resume. You can look over the last 20-some years. You may not have agreed with everyone on policy, but their resumes reflected a deep level of experience. That's what I expect. I expect for them to be vetted and go through committee process so they can interview for that job like they're supposed to, and we can make our decision.
And Senator, have you decided one way or the other where you are on Pete Hegseth?
No, I'm not going to be voting for Pete Hegseth. Number one, the sexual allegations against him. They are so concerning. I sit on the Armed Services Committee. We have been working for years to combat sexual assault in the military, trying to legislate ways for victims to get their stories out and be sure that they get justice. And what kind of message does that send to the employees there and to our families, men and women in the military? Not to mention the allegations of financial mismanagement. There are billions of dollars that are managed to this department. I'm concerned about that, and I just don't believe that Mr. Hegseth has the broadened resume required for this job.
And Senator, overnight we learned that President-elect Trump has selected Kimberly Guilfoyle to be the U.S. ambassador to Greece. She's been engaged to his son, Donald Trump Jr., and this comes after Trump picked his son-in-law's father to be the ambassador to France. Do these diplomatic selections concern you?
Well, I think we should separate our families away from our political appointments. I think that that is fair and reasonable for the American public to expect, that we have people, again, who are there, who are independent, who can do the diplomatic job that that position requires, regardless of where it is around the world. And just because you're related to someone, again, doesn't mean you have the resume. You might, but I still believe that we should keep our families and our politics separate.
And I do want to ask you about one other Trump cabinet pick. CNN is reporting RFK Jr. is going to be up on Capitol Hill next week, meeting with senators. What is going to happen to public health in this country if he is confirmed to lead HHS, Health and Human Services?
Well, again, I don't believe he's a serious candidate, and I'm going to give you just the first example. Does anybody remember seeing a case of polio? I don't think so, because since the 1960s, we've had polio vaccines in this country, and you haven't seen anyone. Have you seen smallpox? Have you seen, even since I was a kid, measles, mumps, rubella, all of those things? That has kept our nation safe, the vaccines. And it's kept us safe around the world in many places. And so you think about RFK Jr., and he's such an anti-vaxxer, that's going to put us at great risk, I believe, particularly our children who may suffer from the lifelong consequences of these terrible diseases. And so he'll be up here on Capitol Hill, but again, I don't think he is a serious candidate.
And I do want to ask you about the killing of the United Healthcare CEO. Police say they found a homemade pistol and silencer in the alleged killer's backpack, a so-called ghost gun. Unfortunately, Nevada knows all too well the devastation caused by gun violence in this country. It had the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history back in 2017. I know you've been working on this issue, had lots of discussions about gun safety laws in this country. What does this case tell you, that you have apparently a 3D printed gun in the possession of this suspect?
Well, first of all, with any violence. It is never the answer. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of this violent behavior. And we can have policy differences. You can be upset with things, but we use legislation, we use our court system. You can be an activist. You don't resort to violence. You certainly don't murder someone. And you're absolutely right, whether it's bump stocks or ghost guns or high capacity magazines. We have things that we can do to help keep our communities safe from violence. As you noted, we have suffered so much since 1 October, and we continue to suffer those repercussions from the people, not just the families who were wounded or murdered, had victims in their family, but our workforce, all of those people who responded. There were more than 20,000 people at that concert that night, hotel employees that had to respond. We've been traumatized, and we need to do something, and people want us to do, again, what's reasonable. We're not going to take away anyone's gun. We just want to do what's reasonable. Ghost guns are a problem. We should address them.
All right, Senator Jackie Rosen, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, still to come, how